Hello, welcome to my channel where I share my programming experience to the world. This time, we'll discuss how we can monitor, audit, and gather metrics on a Spring Boot application. But before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload new ones. Let's begin. When dealing with a multi-component application, such as in a microservice architecture, it is very important to manage, audit, gather metrics, health checkup, and monitor the different microservice applications, or in our example, the Spring Boot applications. With Spring Boot framework, there is a library that is easily accessible and configured to provide such production-ready features, which is the Spring Boot Actuator. These features are accessible via JMX or HTTP endpoints. In addition, there is a community project which is known as Spring Admin that provides an administration that provides a centralized place to access the details submitted by all the registered clients. In this video, we will set up the Spring Admin server and a sample client. So let's begin with the admin server. So using the Spring SDS development environment, let's create a new project. Or you can either create your own project from scratch or check out my Terra Warehouse admin server. I will provide the GitHub address in the description box in this for this video. So if you decided to create your own project, just hit File, New, Other, select under Spring Boot, select Spring Starter Project, then Next, uh, update the values accordingly, and in the dependency section, make sure to add the Spring Spring Web Starter, the server, and the admin. So these two dependencies, Spring Boot admin client and Spring Boot admin server. So this is the server. Why are we adding the client? Because we also want to register the server as a client so that we will see the metrics of that server. Later we will provide a demo for that. And then let's add security and yeah, Spring security, and finally DevTools, so that if you decided to debug the application, hot deployment will work. Spring Boot DevTools. After creating the project, you should have a form file similar to this one. So here we have the web, the starter server, client, the starter security, and the DevTools. But when you use this utility from the new project creation feature of the Spring STS project, you might get a version for the server and the client. So what I do is use the dependency management and use the Spring Boot admin dependencies. Here I'm using the version 2.1.6. So it's using that, and if you will notice, I don't have a version here because the version here is taken from this BOM. So that when I wanted to update, I just need to change this value. And one thing to notice in this form file is that in my Spring Boot Maven plugin, I added the build info under goals. So later we will show why we have this build info. And I think that's it for our form file. Next is the application properties. So this is how our project should look like. This is a generic Spring Boot web project, and then we have this application.properties. In here, We have the name of the project. Server port is 9990. We're exposing all the endpoints so that we can see all the metrics available. I will also provide you the documentation for the endpoints, which is this one in the video description. So here you we can see these are the informations that we can get. Loggers, liquidates, the metrics info, if the application is up or down. So we will take a look on that later. And then to register this server as a client, we are providing the username and the password because we are securing the admin server here using this admin username and password. So that's why here we specified the server URL and the username and password. This configuration below is the one used by the Spring Boot to connect to the server or to connect to the client to fetch the information. So to access the actuator endpoints to our server, which is also a client, it needs the username and password. So that's why we are also providing the admin username and password for this one. And after that, we need to annotate our Spring Boot application with enable admin server. And finally, we need to override or we need to extend the web security configurer adapter. Here, we just specify the login URL, here form login and the logout URL. And then we ignore these patterns, the instances and the actuator, so that we can view those information. So let's try running the TerraWars admin server application Spring Boot app. Once it's up, we can access this by port 9990, which will host 9990. But since we have a form login, it will ask us to log in. Before showing this, I'll show you the actuator. So this is the actuator. It comes from Spring Web, or it comes from our Spring Boot admin server or Spring Boot admin client dependency. So here we have the Spring Boot actuator. These are the URLs that provides the information or metrics that we can use to observe the server. For example, the health URL. So it tells us whether the application is up or down. So for example, if the database connection failed, then this status will be down. And let's see this actuator info. So in the actuator info, we have the artifact name, group, time, version. So where did it come from? It comes from the Spring Boot Maven plugin goals build info. So that's why we need it to provide the application information. And these URLs are well documented in the endpoints here. So it's from Spring, so it's very much updated, production ready endpoints. And then finally, I'll show you the Spring Boot admin. So here is the URL the admin URL, which is also a client because we register the server as a client. If we click it, it will provide the server's information. So here we can see the build info, some metrics, environment, beans, configuration, and then the logger configuration, which we can also change here. Some JVM, JMX entries, threads. So this is for the web. So here are the available URLs. It's also provided here. Some web traces, audit logs, cache. I guess we don't have cache in the server for in this instance. So journal, this is more like the history of every application that is registered on this particular server. So here we have the server, which is also a client registered, and its status changed from to up, from down to up. And then next is we will set up the client. But before that, if you're wondering where to get the documentation on what other features you can do with the Spring Boot admin, just go to this URL, github.com/codecentric. I will provide this in the description box of this video, so it's well documented. Here are the available features that you can do with Spring Boot admin, and they have a very good documentation here. Here they have the Spring Boot client, Spring Boot admin client, how you can set it up. It's like how what we did earlier. So next we will set up the client. If if you will notice, the server project contains an admin starter client dependency as well as configuration to connect to itself, because we use the server as a client too. It means that we are setting up the server, yes, as a client. So here are the steps to set up a client. If you will notice, the server project contains an admin starter client dependency as well as configuration to connect to itself, which is what we've shown earlier. It means that we are setting up the server as a client itself. Here are the steps to set up a client. Add Spring Boot admin starter client dependency, and add the credentials to connect to the admin server in the application.json file, which is these parts. Here, we specify the admin URL and the username and password to log in because we secure it, and then this configuration so that we can send the data of this client to the admin server. So let's try running this client. Note that I'll also make this TeraWars catalog application available in GitHub, so don't worry because all the codes will be available for you to test. And let's check. This is 1990. This is the server. This is the client, but it's secured. Okay. By the way, if you're looking for a dependency and you don't know the exact configuration, just type mbnrepository.com in your URL and type the dependency that you are looking. So for example, for this one, I'm looking for Spring Boot admin server UI login from the.codecentric, and that's where I found that dependency. So our client is running, and if we look at our Spring Boot admin, this client should be registered by now. And Here it is. We can see our client being registered in the Spring Boot admin. So let's check the information. TerraVars catalog. It's correct. This is the configuration defined in the client's POM file. TerraVars Terra Warehouse catalog version 0.0.1 dash snapshot. Okay, we have it. And there are other useful features for you to explore. For example, in this case, since our client application is using Liquibase, we can see here the Liquibase logs. It's very useful for debugging. And then the generic insights, metrics, environment. So in here, you can easily check whether the instance is up or down. So that's why it's very useful to have this string admin. If you have multiple applications, you can easily monitor if there is a problem. If it's losing, if you don't have enough memory, or you don't have enough CPU, or your CPU is not being taken advantage of, you can see it here. It's very useful. And I think that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and I hope I was able to share something useful. If you like my videos, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. See you in the next one. Thank you and bye.